Welcome back to the Tool Crib. Today, I want to talk about Leatherman Tool Group as a whole. And I've got several selections of Leatherman multi-tools out here on the table. I have two Leatherman Surges that are brand new. I have my daily carry Leatherman Surge, and then I have a Leatherman Free P4 and a Leatherman Arc. And ironically, on the topic of this discussion, I was pulling the Leatherman Free P4 out, and one of the plastic pieces on the Free P4, which houses right behind the magnet here, snapped off. And my point of this video is to talk about the quality of Leatherman lately. And the reason, well, I'll circle back to the Surges here in just a second. So in 2018, Leatherman came out with the Leatherman Free P4, and they touted this as basically the replacement to the Leatherman Wave. Now, in my opinion, it's not on par with the Leatherman Wave, mostly due to the internal tool set, which just does not perform on the same level that the Wave does. So another thing that they did, they changed a couple of things. They tried some different ideas, like incorporating a package opener into the driver. They switched the bottle cap lifter into their Phillips driver. And the problem with these tools, though, is that these were more reminiscent of some of their cheaper models, like the Sidekick and the Wingman, and didn't feel like they belonged in a flagship model Leatherman. And to this day, I feel the same way. Another issue that they had was in some of the other internal tools. They changed around the can opener, which doesn't bother me that much, but in the awl, they tried to incorporate a screwdriver instead of making that a proper awl. And then they included this virtually useless file in this multi-tool. Now, the Free P4 had its issues. I wasn't a big fan of it, mostly because of the internal tools. I just didn't think that they belonged in a flagship or a high quality multi-tool from Leatherman. And then the magnets, for me personally, they're not conducive to the type of work that I do. And so it's kind of the same reason I don't use Olights, and I choose to use Phoenix on the job site, because I'm around so much metallic dust, not just from welding and grinding processes, but from the type of industries that I work in. I just encounter a lot of it. And so I didn't want to constantly be cleaning out this multi-tool. So this one did not appeal to me, and I certainly didn't think it was worth the money. That has all culminated now, though, into the Leatherman Arc, which I am actually a big fan of. Now, granted, it still maintains the same magnetic architecture, and because of that reason, it's not a tool that I would actually use on the job site. However, off hours, away from work, I think this is a very good tool selection. I think this is a very good multi-tool. And for the majority of people that don't work in the type of industries I work in, it's a non-issue, and this will be their multi-tool of choice. And it's a very good selection. They've really done a very nice job with this multi-tool with new MagnaCut blade. They added the bit exchanger into it. They changed the cut around and made the awl a proper awl. I disagree with the little micro driver being incorporated back into this multi-tool, though that's neither here nor there. They have scissors, a proper file with diamond coating, a saw blade, and then their MagnaCut, which I very, very much like. So my point to this is that Leatherman has been concentrating more of their efforts onto what is now their newest flagship tool in the new free series of tools, which they will hold the patents on for quite some time to come. So I get that. As a company, they have to evolve in order to stay relevant. And so I'm okay with that to a certain degree. However, what I want to talk about is some of the quality issues that we're seeing in, or at least I've seen in some of their older models. And the irony is that when just flipping this one out, that plastic piece broke. Maybe plastic is not the best idea to have in a multi-tool. I'm going to set those to the side, though. So I have one of the Leatherman Surges that I bought new, and then because I found issues with this one, I wanted to see for myself if getting it from a different vendor if I would see the same types of issues. And in fact, they were worse. So here's what I'm talking about. When I first opened up this tool, didn't think anything of it, thought everything was going to be fine. But when I went to go open up the driver, something didn't feel right. So you notice that there's quite a bit of play in that bit exchanger. So by comparison, I'm going to pull mine out here. And when this one locks in, actually I'll leave it in its open position, you can see that there's really no movement whatsoever to this bit exchanger. None. It's a very solid multi-tool. This one, however, I noticed that play in there. Couldn't figure out what it was. And I also noticed that when this is in its lock position, this was very, very, very loose. Took me a little bit to figure it out. Really had to get the second one, which has an even worse problem, to really finalize and determine what it was. Because originally I thought maybe the grind wasn't quite right on the back of the lock mechanism. Well, it turns out that it's not in the tooling itself, but rather in the spring mechanism. So this one, when I bought it, I noticed right off the start that something was bad wrong with it. You can hear this. By just moving it around, you hear that ticking noise. Well, what has happened here is that the spring that retains or puts pressure back onto the internal tool lock doesn't have enough tension on it. And so that's the reason why there's so much play in these tools when they're in their locked open position. In fact, I'll just do them one at a time. I think it's a little worse when you just have a single tool out. You can see how much play is in that tool, and then that constant rattling sound within here. And it's a lack of quality control on Leatherman's part. So the first one was bad. The second one was worse. Now, I know that I can send these in and get them repaired. And now, obviously, I'm going to finally have to send my free P4 in because of this issue. But my point of this is that it seems to me that Leatherman's quality has taken a hit, especially in some of their older multi-tools. While they're paying so much attention to their flagship model, or the newest flagship now, some of the other tools have seen a drop in their quality control. And it's not the design or the tool itself, it's in the quality control, because this is the same Leatherman Surge as this one. Both of these are exact same tooling, exact same everything, except for the springs are not calibrated properly, for lack of a better term. Now, Leatherman is probably experiencing the same turnover that a lot of companies are these days. It's gotten progressively worse since 2020, and I get that. I understand that, and there's always going to be employee issues. But Leatherman as a company cannot let things like this slip by. The reason I say that is because in my day, when I was coming up, we had two choices. You had Leatherman and you had Victorinox. And those are two very good companies. Both build excellent quality products, especially back then. Leatherman was innovating constantly back then. It was a good time to be into multi-tools at that time. Now, granted, today, there's so much more selection, and you're seeing a lot of copycats. Leatherman's prices on the Leatherman Surge right now run somewhere around the $160 mark. Might be even a little higher now. And if you're going to spend that kind of money on what is supposed to be, quote unquote, the best out there, and then you run into these quality issues, that's just going to leave a terrible sour taste in your mouth. Imagine going to get a new car. You decide you want a new Ford. You go to pick up your Ford. It runs fine for the first week. A week later, the engine starts knocking. Well, obviously, that is going to leave a sour taste in your mouth. And the next time that you're going to go look for a vehicle, you're probably not going to the Ford dealership first. So Leatherman as a company needs to fix this issue. I understand, again, with turnover, that sometimes it can be hard to train new employees in order to do their job as efficiently and as effectively as possible. But there should be a process in place to make sure that things like this do not go out the door. Now, I understand they can't catch it all. No company can. There's always going to be a limit, no matter what your favorite brand is. At some point, there has been a tool that has come out that is below standards. It's just the nature of the beast. It's just the way business works, the way industry works. But at the same time, there seem to me that there are too many of these issues leaving the shop from Leatherman. And I think it's something that they need to get a hold on very, very quickly. Now, if you've had some issues with Leatherman, please put them in the comments below. I know there's going to be a lot because it seems that over the last 4 or 5 years, Leatherman's quality control has really began to slip pretty pretty drastically, to be honest with you. I just hope that Leatherman can get this issue resolved, because I'm a personal believer that Leatherman multi-tools are the absolute best on the market, and I want them to keep that reputation. But if they're gonna continue to let stuff like this get out the door, that reputation is going to be in shambles very, very quickly. My name is Ben. You've been watching the Texas Tool Crib. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next one.